Welcome to this Akashic Records reading. This could be the reading that you've been waiting for, that you've been asking Spirit and your guides for, and haven't quite landed on the information. And this is going to be the message you're going to need to hear. Let's get started. If you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Carey. I am a medium, a mentor, and an Akashic Records reader. I'm so excited that you're here today. Before I started this reading, I tap into a connection with the world of spirit, my guides, and really what message needs to find the collective that is drawn here that will serve you. And so often what I am doing is tapping into the Akashic Records, which is the field of your soul's history. And as a group and as a collective, many of us are having very similar themes and things that we are challenged with and then learning, especially during this time in history on the planet. The astrology tells us that. History tells us that. And this is the point where often many of us are reaching for our own inner guidance, a light, but we want to get those messages from Spirit that really resonate and vibrate with our own inner knowing. And that's the intention of this reading. I also want to let you know that specifically today, the guides had said to me that they want this reading to really reflect a few things. The first is signs that we find in nature, signs that we find even connecting with animals and the natural world. So this reading is going to really just be delving into that. And some of the decks I use will definitely refer to that. So mostly today I'm going to be using oracle decks. So I hope this finds you well. We're going to be starting here. I'm just going to tap in and see what comes through and what messages are here. Now we are in the beginning still of December, and the energy has changed now that we have Mercury is direct, as well as we are in Sagittarius, a very different energy than even a month ago. So take time to really just examine that and how that might affect you in your daily life and how you can best be in alignment with that. So we'll just pull a few cards that will resonate and begin to reveal probably some inner challenges maybe that you've been having, the advice that can come through from the guides just to let us know. So we have the Six of Wands in the upright, the energy of Leo. We have Two of Cups in reverse. We have the Chariot card in the upright. The Ace of Wands is in the reverse, and the Magician's in reverse. Okay, this is very interesting. So I'm going to start off where it began. Ace of Wands in reverse. So when we're looking at the aces, we're always looking at the seed of potential, the opportunity for us to be able to connect to an energy that has a lot of power, the energy of the flame, the energy of inspiration, the energy of passion. Now, because it's in reverse, and the way I'm reading this, the guides are really saying, before you look out onto what your next step is, make sure you are tuning into your inner field of resonance, your inner knowing. And that can be found by accessing it through your intuition. How do we get to know our intuition? We get to know it by asking to feel what it feels like in our own bodies to have a moment of inspiration and intuition and wisdom. That is one aspect of your intuition. So it is really a time of resetting, endings, and things beginning. Now, we are at the end of a year in numerology of the number 9. Number 9 is endings. So that is in perfect keeping with probably many of you have been through this cycle of releasing a lot of things that don't serve you, that aren't on your path, that aren't in alignment for you, that you want to be able to authentically go forward into 2026, really feeling on purpose and targeting what you really want to focus on. And again, that's why it's interesting that they said they want us to connect with signs from animals and signs from nature. And I think that goes way back to our origins as humans, that We didn't use all these other apparatuses, even cards really, to foretell what steps we should take. So it's really going back to an essential beginning, because in the beginning, there was the flame, right? The flame, the inspiration, the level of creation. That's where it all started. Now, moving on, we have the magician also in reverse. And these two things seem to pair together, to be honest with you, for me. And I think because this is you sort of resetting, possibly just during this time, because we are in, the month of December, and this is a time to go within. It is a time of, even though we want to fire things up and move into action, the gentle nature of connecting with rhythms and cycles and how things begin, grow, and then end, knowing we are in a cycle of endings. So knowing it's okay that you don't have everything lined up is absolutely where you're meant to be at this time. Now, based on that, I want to talk about connections and community, because we have the Three of Wands here. The number 3 is always going to be about collaborating, community, connection with things besides yourself and one other element, and then what is around you. So looking for those places where you feel, and again, the word nature is coming to me from spirit, and I feel like what feels natural for you. Where are the places where you naturally feel like you fit, where you have connections that you feel interested in, excited in, and who you want to collaborate with? Possibly this is you working with a teacher and other students, or maybe this is you developing something with a few other people that you have a connection with. But in general, I'm getting a sense of, allow this process to go on that you're currently in, which is this gestation, really releasing, really fine-tuning, getting your intuition, but then coming into alignment with then what's around me? What are the signs that I'm picking up on and that are telling me what direction to go in and where I feel a sense of community? Now, this is what makes me feel really excited. And I have to say, I had a beautiful, I'm going to call him out, astrological reading for myself yesterday with the incredible Joe Theodore, who's an amazing astrologer. I highly recommend him. And we spoke a little bit about the planet of Jupiter, in which case some things that are going to be changing with the astrology for next year, but also what that means as far as alignment for many of us with the Six of Wands, right? So that's that energy of recognition. That's that energy of you being in your element. That's really connecting in with purpose, with when you're in alignment with the things where your intuition is leading you, where you feel a sense of purpose, even if you don't know the whole story ahead of you, but you're in resonance with that. That means things are going to start flipping, things are going to start coming together, and there'll be alignment and pathways will open. That's really something I'm getting that's coming forward for many of you. Okay, Two of Cups is in reverse. When I see a card in reverse, what it tells me is I need to go back to the card before it and ask myself, what am I missing? And what do I need to balance? And what is the card before this? The Ace of Cups. The Ace of Cups is the emotional depth of plenty. It shows being showered with emotion, a manna from the divine that provides us with a sense of, I would say, richness, both within ourselves especially, but with our connections. This feels to me like there are some brittle relationships that aren't serving you as much. It doesn't mean you have to move away from these relationships. It just means that you might want to take a step back. And some of the relationships that aren't serving you very well may need your examination and attention of how much energy you want to put towards them, and whether it's worth your time. That's what I'm hearing. So examination, that's all part of the endings. And then we have it's very much an oxymoron of what's next, right? Then we have the Chariot, another fire energy of moving forward, moving fast, but also this is after you've done some discernment and been selective about what you want to go forward with. You've let go of something, The card before the Chariot is the Lover's card, which is very similar to the Two of Cups. So there's some correspondences here. This is you not waiting for someone else to tell you you're doing the right thing, but trusting yourself. That's really what I'm getting that's coming through. All right, we are going to move into the Woodland Wardens deck for our animal signs. Let me know in the comments if this is resonating for you. And I would also love it if you could subscribe to my channel. It means so much to me when I see new faces here. Also know that I offer readings, and all that information is on my page, as well as several other things. So feel free to explore. All right, let's see what the Woodland Wardens is telling us. Okay, we're getting the boar and the pumpkin, which is confidence. We're getting the mouse and the buttercup, innocence. We are getting the ladybug and the sweet pea, happiness. And then we're getting the goat and willow. So goat makes sense as we're moving into Capricorn. I'm actually going to start with the end in mind and work backwards. So this is where we want to be at the end of this month. Where do we want to be as we're moving into Capricorn season, right? And this is where, notably, this is overcoming obstacles, right? But let's go back to the origins of this reading and know, like, where, in order to move past obstacles, we do need to know what our starting point is. We need to know what we're carrying, what we want to release, what the signs are, what our intuition is telling us, and whether or not we're headed at least in the direction we think is the right direction for us. And this is where that level of achievement, you want, if you're working on achieving something, you want it to be something that is worth fighting for, that you want to invest in. So the weight will be easier if you know where you're headed. That's really what I'm getting. The other thing, the ladybug and sweet pea, happiness, what's sweeter than that? Feels very much to me like the divine feminine, the part of us that is sacredly receptive, that has that deeper connection, that has the heart space, that has the creative energy, that is not in overaction. So focusing on those things, and because of the smallness, if you think about a ladybug, and even if you're looking at the sweet pea, these are very small things if you saw them as signs in nature. They wouldn't be large. They wouldn't be make a grand gesture. They would be only under you gently reflecting and looking around and noticing what's in your environment, how those subtle things might affect you. So the things that change our minds aren't always the loudest things. Remember that. That also moves us right perfectly into the mouse and the buttercup, innocence, the same kind of thing, going in with a childlike mind, right? If you think about these, if you think about mice and you think about even the buttercup, like how that looks very fragile, and a mouse is, essentially not the strongest animal that you'll ever run into. In fact, more so survival, looked at as a prey animal. But yet, how important is it to hold space for those things in nature that create a balance of gentle energy? And often when we want to get things done, especially as those of us in the Western cultures, that we often push our way into things in a very masculine way in order to get things moving in our lives. And we want to really take time to look at, again, the signs in nature, the signs with animals, something subtle. What can that teach us? They're teachers for us. And then we really are starting this with the boar and the pumpkin, which is so confidence, right? Real confidence, I believe, true confidence that goes all the way down through your entire body and really resonates deeply within you, comes from being connected and being in alignment and living your truth. And so knowing all these parts of yourself and being in touch with your intuition and knowing that there is that resonance of gentleness, that's all a valid part of you in order to be where you want to be in 2026. So let's pull the two final cards. These cards are really special. Oh, we're getting three. These are beautiful. They're a very special deck. And in fact, I'll put it out so you can see this one too. This is the Kantaji Oracle. Absolutely beautiful. One day I always think I'm going to do some reviews of decks. I haven't gotten around to that. So the first thing I want to talk about is the Living Mountain. You can see the eyes in this. specifically. I love this so much. So let's go back to this paired with the obstacles. That's really what I'm drawn to, because if you think about a goat or Capricorn, we have the goat that goes up the mountain. That's one of the definite symbols that you'll see there, is that treacherous climb a goat does, especially goats that are much more considered mountain goats, because that is in general, those creatures, they're so beautiful, but they can be on these little tiny ledges with just their little hooves. I keep thinking about that. But also knowing that during some of the things that might be challenging for you to move into what you want to create for yourself in 2026, there might be times when you feel like you're in peril because you're making choices that are not maybe familiar to you if you're living in your spiritual resonance. And so that would mean that even if you're on the little ledge, like that mountain goat, you can trust spirit to take care of you during the skills you're learning when you're building that stamina to live your truth. Next, we have this beautiful licking dew from green laces. I just love some of these. They really kind of move towards you, towards really diving into your intuition. This deck is a whole beautiful way they explore it. Two women created it. So I'm going to have to cover her just a little bit, right? But to me, this has a lot to do with, again, because we're taking in that moisture from green leaves. And remember when you were a child, this is what I'm getting, and you would put your tongue out when it rained, right? And I'm getting this image also that I think I've seen this several times online, is someone being out in a tropical island when it's raining and taking a leaf and then bringing that water back into your throat. Just think about the connection of how nature provides nourishment for us, right? Just like our relationship, the plants and the trees don't have to trust that the water is coming. They know it's going to be there, right? It's innate within them because it's part of their ecosystem. What we need to get back to is trusting spirit in the same way. So we feel, in fact, that sense of deep trust, respect, and reverence. Final card, the unburdened bones. These are actually hip bones, right? Oh, this is fascinating, with these beautiful like wings beneath them. For me, this has a lot to do, again, when we think about the word unburdened, and then we think about our own physical being, our bodies. Trust is a huge part of this. Knowing that we put our trust, we put our heart in the hands of spirit. In order to guide us. And many of you are at this point where you didn't always trust. You didn't always feel that there was a place that was going to hold you during the most difficult times. And also there is that sense of you creating that stamina in order to endure the shifts and the changes that you will be going through, knowing it's going to be worth it every step of the way. You trusting spirit, trusting your guides, trusting yourself. This was a gorgeous reading. If you enjoyed this reading, make sure you check out these readings as well. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.